Good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lecture by me, Professor Zayed. And in this lecture, I'm going to be talking about data ethics. And this lecture is specifically designed for a class that I teach, data privacy, ethics, and business intelligence, DS 650, data science. But this could be applied to any class that teaches data ethics and information technology or information systems. So this is just a brief introduction of the topic, data ethics. I'm going to talk about the ethical and social issues in a digital form, understanding ethical and social issues related to information systems, and then ethics in information society, and then moral dimensions of information systems. So we talk about information technology or information systems. Basically, IT or information technology or systems are those systems that or the components that used to document or store data, analyze data, capture data, and things like that, right? So we have clients, a server relationship where clients, computers are or systems are used to request services, and servers are used specifically to serve or to provide information, like databases or a website, and storage and things like that. So information technology has a wide area for like in used mainly for like education, business, healthcare, banking, and so on and so forth. So we talk about ethical and social political issues that are raised by information systems. These are some of the things we're going to be discussing, and we'll talk about specific principles for conduct that can be used to guide decisions about ethical dilemmas. And then why does contemporary information systems technology pose challenges to protection of individual privacy and intellectual property? So we talk about patent, copyright, trade secrets, and so on. And these can all be exposed in the digital world what we have today. We know we have cybersecurity. We hear a lot about hacking and data theft and leak and all that stuff. So personal privacy is one important topic to talk about as well. So how have the information systems affected everyday life, right? How can an organization develop corporate policies for ethical conduct? We talk about cyberbullying and talk about data leaks, or unintentionally or intentionally leaking data online, or exposing your own private information or information of your organization, or others, friends, through contacts and things like that, right? So this is a one of the I shared a slide that talks about some of the things that exist, some ultimate good towards which, in the final analysis, all human actions ultimately aim. The necessary characteristics of the ultimate good are that it is complete, final, self-sufficient, and continuous. Or this good towards which all human actions implicitly or explicitly aim is called eudaimonia, which is not a static state of being, but a type of activity. So these are the things that Aristotle talked about. Talked about bravery, temperance, generosity, beneficence, like generous, being generous, magnanimity, honor, good temper, friendliness, truthfulness, wit, and justice. So we face a lot of challenges in everyday world today, with all the challenges, like all the data that are being collected and being analyzed and stored and so on and so forth. So we have some, using some of the business challenges here. You're talking about improved marketing, increased profits. That's for the business challenge, how you can overcome that challenge. Talk about in the management, from the management perspective, you have used text messaging as a marketing channel without alienating mobile phone customers. Use demographic data about customers for external marketers, and we talked about like data privacy protection. Previous lectures talked about like collecting data from social media and so on and so forth. In technology, you can use technology to like technology can be used to do things like spam, sending spam messages to others, which is basically unwanted text messages or unwanted emails like phishing. Cell phone technology in that case, and then you have a organization, you have things that we talk about: management, marketing, clients, mobile phone customers, and so on. All these three together: management, technology, and organization. The challenge here is the information systems. How can you can use demographic data to target mobile phone customers for ads, from external marketers. You can send ads to mobile phone customers. And in that case, if you overcome the challenge, you can use that to increase revenue and profits. Some of the challenging here, like I said, management challenges, talking about understanding understanding the moral risks of new technology, like job displacement, nuclear technology, and so on and so forth. So, for example, technology can be used to optimize and do things that you do not need. You do not need human beings to do these jobs anymore. So this is kind of a challenge. And from ethical perspective, how you can eliminate jobs because for the purpose of increasing profits. Establishing corporate ethic policies that include information system issues, and these should be all addressed by companies that talk about, like, they have their policies. They should include these things like sharing information and so on, access rights, the actions that you can do online that can harm others. These should also be included in the corporate ethical policies. Also discuss things like copyright, trade secret, and so on, liabilities, and sharing information. So what is the definition of ethics? It's basically a principle of right and wrong, what is considered to be right and what is considered to be wrong, and it's basically a guide to behavior. So use that ethical rule to guide others on how to behave, right? How to behave in the company, how to behave in their daily lives, and things like that. Not everything is things that are unethical, not necessarily are illegal. A lot of, you can argue most things or all things that are illegal are unethical, but you can't really say the same thing about things that are unethical. Some things that are unethical are not necessarily illegal. They could be illegal. So it's just a guide for behavior, how to do things. It can be used by individuals acting as a free moral agents to make choices to guide their behavior, right? Something in society which we live in can be unethical, but it might not be ethical. It might be ethical in other societies. So we have to think about these terms and what do they mean to us, right? It could be considered by unethical by the rest of the society, but it might be to you. Is there really nothing wrong with it? So you have to think about those guides and how to use those rules or principles to guide us on how to behave and do certain things. So here there's a model for thinking about ethical, social, and political issues, which illustrates the dynamic connecting ethical, social, and political issues. It identifies the moral dimensions of the information society across individual, social, and political levels of action. Information technology, or IT, there are opportunities for intense social change. They could be causing a threat to existing distribution of power, money, rights, and obligations. They also could be a threat to establish social values. It can be used to achieve social progress and can be used to commit crime as well, right? Hacking or cyberbullying and things like that. So there are a lot of things that we have to be concerned about using information technology, and they could be they are so they could be used to do good things, but they also could be used to do bad things as well. So but of course it's kind of hard to kind of what we see today, and we hear about these cyber crimes and things that happen online, cyber theft and things like that, data issues, data theft, and so on and so forth. It's kind of hard to. It's getting more and more challenging with the advancement of technology, and we have things like IoT devices, Internet of Things, and then there are devices that are not really protected or not really updated, so they actually cause more issues that we can see today. So here I'll talk about the difference, the relationship between ethical, social, and political issues in information society. You can see the information rights and obligations. You'll have accountability. Also, your right as using in information rights or information technology area, and then you have accountability and control. Who's accountable, and then we can use that. A lot of times things are happening online and in a digital world that really can't find anyone to hold accountable. And then the quality of the systems that we use as well, and then the property rights and obligations, like copyright, patents, trade secrets, and so on. The key technology trends that raise ethical issues is the computing power doubles every 18 months, depending on the computer systems. And you also have the which basically allows unethical behavior, or also allows really to do good things, but also allows hackers to kind of use systems to become more efficient and do things easily. The rapidly declining data storage costs, easy maintenance of individual databases. A long time ago, it used to be harder to keep data on your storage devices because storage devices are expensive, and now they are cheaper. You can store more and more data as an organization that trying to collect data, or an individual that collects data. They have an ability, a capability of storing more and more data for a lower cost. And so because of the data storage, or the storage devices are cheaper today, it's a lot easier to store data that about other people without the concern of like paying more money for it. um, and then you have data mining advances, analysis of vast quantities of data. So now we have systems that allow you to analyze a lot more, data than used to be able to do that before in the past. Um, and of course, we have the networking advances and internet, remotely accessing personal data. Now we know that we use cloud computing a lot more than we used to. We can A lot of people now, or individuals or organizations, they store their data or the data of other people on the cloud for a lot lower cost. Like have systems like AWS and Google and things like that. So it's a lot cheaper to store data in the cloud and access that data easily, remotely, from anywhere, any place, from any device. So here you have the technology trends that raises ethical issues. These are the ones that we talked about: the computing power doubles, the declining storage cost. So here on the computing power doubles every 18 months. The impact of that is more organizations depend on computer systems for critical operations. Whether you do it for good or bad, businesses run on that. But there are things like unethical things that hackers would do, like denial of service attacks, hacking, and data theft, and so on. So and then declining storage cost is basically allow organizations can easily maintain detailed databases on individuals. And data analysis advances. Companies can analyze vast quantities of data gathered on individuals to develop detailed profiles of individual behavior. We see that in social media, and we talked about this in this class for the previous topics, talked about social media and data analysis and how data is being collected on social media. So, and then you have also the networking advances and the internet, copying data from one location to another and accessing personal data from remote locations are much easier. We now have if you store your data on the cloud, you can go anywhere, you can access your data. You can also, if you're able to access individuals' data, or others' data, remotely, you can actually copy that data and put it somewhere else. And so this is a term that is called non-obvious relationship awareness, or NORA. It's basically technology that can take information about people from disparate sources, and find obscure non-obvious relationships. So it might be discovered, for example, that an applicant for a job at a casino shares a telephone number with a known criminal and issue an alert to the hiring manager. So this is a good way to kind of catch or find some information that will help stop bad actions. So this is NORA technology is like really cool, and it should be used by businesses. And so you have here customer transaction systems, and then you have human resource systems, incident and arrest systems, and then it lists the bad guy system. So this kind of finds a relationship that is not obvious. For example, like I said here, you can go apply for a job, and your phone number might be, or address might be shared with someone else who actually known to be someone who criminal. And so the casino or the place that hiring, they make sure that you have a relationship to that person, that individual, that they have an idea of how to protect their assets and information. So some of the basic concepts here that we talk about is responsibility, which basically accepting the potential costs, duties, and obligations for the decision that you make, that someone makes. Accountability, basically holding someone accountable. The mechanisms, laws for assessing responsibility. So for decisions made by and actions taken. So holding someone responsible, you can also hold them accountable. Or, and then liability is the existence of laws that permit individuals to recover the damages done to them by other entities. So making someone liable for this after, hold them accountable, you can actually ask them to reimburse you for the loss or the loss that you have suffered because of their actions. And due process is in which laws are well knowing, understood, and applied. So when you do due process, you do your research to find out, about specific. If you're doing business with a specific organization or individual, you can do your process, you do your research, and you understand the laws in place. The social institutions, organizations, and individuals filter information technologies and determine their impact. Also they have responsibility for the consequences of technology and thus accountable for its use. And then the social institutions, organization, individuals, they can also recover damage done to them through a set of laws characterized by due process. So some of the principles here that are related to ethics is one called the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then another one is called the Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, which is if an action is not right for everyone to take, it is not right for anyone. And then there's another one that's called principle called Descartes' rule of change. If an action cannot be taken repeatedly, it should not be taken at any time. And then they have this principle called the utilitarian principle. Take the action that achieves the higher or greater value, and regardless, of course, if it's going to have impact on some individuals. And the risk aversion principle, take the action that reduces the least harm or least cost. And then the last principle here on this in the slide is the ethical or no free lunch rule, which means all tangible objects are assumed or owned by someone else unless specifically declared otherwise. Some of the terms that we talk about here that we also talked about in the previous lectures is the privacy. And privacy is the claim of individuals to be left alone. So the free from surveillance or interference from other individuals, organizations, or the state. So personal privacy basically means that in technology, in IT, information technology, they basically facilitate the user having their own, systems and things like that, and their own tools to be able to protect their information. The Fair Information Practice, a set of principles in 1973 that governs the collection and use of information about individuals, and it forms the basis of most U.S. and European privacy laws. As this is also the basis of for the GDPR or Global Data Protection Regulation, which is a European data protection regulation that deals with data privacy and protection and so on. In the United States, as we know, that there are federal laws that deals with data privacy but there are also state laws as well. There is no one set of rule or one set of law that deals with everything. In the United States, you have different laws like healthcare, they have HIPAA, but in Europe they have something called GDPR, which basically deals with all aspects of data privacy. So general federal privacy laws in the United States Freedom of Information Act, the 1966 is amended, and you have the Privacy Act of 1974. And then you have in 1986, you have a law that's called Electronic Communication Privacy Act. And in 1988, they passed the Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Act. And in 1987, they had this Computer Security Act and Federal Managers Financial Integrity Act of 1982. And you have also some laws that deals with private institutions. This we're talking about here, United States. You have the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1970, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, 1974. This deals with student records, and then Right to Financial Privacy Act of 1978, and then Privacy Protection Act of 1980, and then you have also the Cable Communication Policy Act of 1984. All of these are basically outdated regulations. They've been updated in most cases. And then you have also the COPA, or Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. This was passed in 1998. So now some of the internet challenges to privacy. Internet information travels through many different computer systems and can be, of course, we know that information or data travels through wireless, and other means. Radio waves, wireless, and then you have wired, and then that information can also be monitored by organizations, individuals, and so on. It can be captured and it can be stored. So these are the things that we have to kind of be aware of, what happened to our data. So a cookie is basically a file that when you open up a browser and you go to a website, for example, what happens is the computer or your browser sends a request for information. Let's say you go into a website and you type that website on your browser, and then there's a request will be made by your browser or by your computer. From that request will be made to the site that you're visiting, and what happens is the website computer or the server will send the information that back to you that allows you to display the website on your browser. So and this will also send you a file called the cookie, right? Data file, and this file will contain information like the encrypted ID or the encrypted user ID and information about when you visited the site, and what you did on that site, right? So that's what a cookie is. And then the next thing will happen is the computer that you are, the client computer, or your user computer will basically receive the cookie and then place that in a file on a hard drive on your computer. So whenever you go back to visit that site, the server running the site retrieves the cookie to help it identify the user. So that's how basically websites know a lot about you and how often you visit their website, by storing this file or by reviewing this file or this cookie file that we're talking about, right? So there are US policies that allow businesses to gather information. Like you have social media sites that can collect information about you, and you can opt out. So basically, your data will be collected until you request otherwise. You can go out, you can request to actually opt out, that they cannot store any information about you or collect information. There are also the option or the term opt-in, which basically means that if they only can collect information about you if you give them the authorization to do so, like you subscribe to a website or a page or something like that. That's you opt in, right? And that's why we have the sites that when you receive an email, they have, by law, they have to give you the option to basically unsubscribe from the site. If you ever get any email in your email application, and you try to read that advertisement, there has to be an option there where you can click unsubscribe from this list. So basically, so some of the tools that you can use to protect your privacy is managing cookies. You can block or limit cookies from being placed on your computer, right? You can block ads. There are browser extensions that you can install to block ads on your browser or on your computer. And some sites won't work. Like if you try to access that site, they will tell you that you block ads or you have an extension. You have to temporarily allow this, and then you can do that. So some of the extensions that you can use, there's one called Privacy Badger, and this will basically allow you to automatically learn to or try to block invisible trackers. There's one called uBlock Origin that you can basically block ads. That's an extension that you can install on your browser that I personally use, and then they have other things that can actually do things like encrypt your data. Like there's an extension called HTTPS everywhere, where if you go to a site that is not encrypted, this extension will try to encrypt that data for you. You can do things like encrypt your email, and some email applications, or they by default they encrypt the data. And you can do things like uh, browse sites anonymously. You can use like things like incognito window on a browser and so on. So here talking about some of the issues, ethical. What do I consider private for other? So something that might be private to you or not private to you might be private for other people. So how do you think about that and how you respond to that? And what legitimates an intrusion? What is intrusion? Is like someone illegally intrude or get into your system. And do you have to inform other that you are watching them? Like, is that, for example, like having a camera on a street is not something that you have to inform people walking by. So, but there are things, sometimes there are issues with that. So you have to be careful on how you are monitoring other people and organizations. And so these are the things that we consider like social issues. What do you consider private and what do you consider not private? So some of the moral dimensions of information age, information rights and obligations, property rights, accountability and control, system quality and quality of life. So some of these, for example, talking about property rights, intellectual property. What is trade secret? Trade secret is any intellectual work or a product that used for a business purpose that can be classified as belonging to a business. So for example, having a recipe for like a Coke or something like that, that's like a trade secret. And then the term copyright is basically meaning that the information, so basically a statutory grant that protects the creator of intellectual property against copying by others for any purpose for a minimum of 70 years. And information systems, the information security specialists will they try to be familiar with some of the concepts of the copyright laws. And there are like specialized like lawyers and work with copyright laws and things like that. And then you have patents, which is the legal document that grants the owner of an exclusive monopoly on ideas behind an invention for 20 years. And this is designed to ensure that inventors of any machines or methods are rewarded for their labor while making widespread use of their inventions. So here to talk about the challenges, you have digital versus traditional media. You have replication, which is replicating data, like making copies of data, transmission, and then alteration. Transmission is like how you transmit data through wire, wireless, and so on. And then altercation, meaning that the integrity or like, altering the data or changing the data. And information security, they have this concept that they call it CIA, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Integrity with meaning that you capture data and you change it and you send it back. So here talking about who owns the information, right? This is a newspaper article, and you talk about different things. The logo, who owns the logo, who owns the textual context, the text, and then the article, the business, and the photographs, and so on and so forth. And when we're talking about copyright or intellectual property, the issues of that is that when we talk about ethical issues, should I copy my own use, like, copying data or, and using it for yourself, or an invention and so on. And if it's so easy, there is no point in protecting it, right? How do you protect your intellectual property data or information? So for example, talk about software information. And so you have the data quality and system errors. At what point should I release software products or like bugs? What am I obliged to know about software quality, software testing, and its operational characteristics? Releasing a new software, for example, what do you know about that software? Is it vulnerable? Does it have any issues? Does it allow hackers access to the system, and so on? And the social issues here is what expectations are we building in people regarding the systems in infallibility and data errors? For example, like what are the expectations that you're giving out to people that you're going to be protecting their systems? You release a product or software to the market, and then something about it. What's your obligation? Should you inform the people about the risks and so on? And then when it comes about the political issues here, should legal institutions establish quality standards and impose them on industry? Should industry associations do it? Talking about quality of life, equity, access, and boundaries, computers and information technology can destroy valuable elements of our culture and society, like the balance of power, center versus periphery, rapidity of change, reduced response time to competition. This is a good example of this in investment, stock market, and so on, using computers to analyze data and make decisions versus using traditional methods. And then maintaining boundaries, like in here, family, work, and leisure, and then dependence on vulnerability, and then computer crime and abuse. These are some of the things that we need to think about. So here's some of the internet crimes and abuses that people do, that hackers do. Spamming, they use technology to send out unsolicited mass email to recipients who have not requested information. This is a problem that is we are doing so much good now to be able to and it used to be in the past where you get so much spamming or phishing emails that come through your inbox. Now technology is helping us a little bit preventing that. And then you have hackers exploit weaknesses in website security to obtain access to proprietary data, such as customer information. You know, there's different things you can do, like guess passwords or use the different methods of getting into the other systems. Um, and they have things like malicious software, or malware. Cyber vandals use data flowing through the internet to transmit computer viruses and so on. And then spoofing, of course, like pretending to be someone else. Some of the health risks here we're dealing with in ethical issues, talking about repetitive stress injury, which is RSI, which is occupational disease that happens when muscle groups are forced through repetitive actions with high impact loads or thousands of repetitions with low impact loads, like sitting down on a computer all day typing and doing things like that. And then another risk is involved with the IS systems is eye strain condition related to computer display screen use. Symptoms include headaches, blurred vision, and dry and irritated eyes. And then you have a term called technostress, which is stress induced by computer use. Symptoms include aggravation, hostility toward humans, impatience, and innervation. So here, talking about the last slide here, talking about corporate codes and of ethics in management actions. Talk about information rights and obligation, which spells out the corporate privacy and due process policies. Have a property rights and obligations. It classifies how the corporation will treat property rights of software owner. And then you have accountability and control, which clarifies who is responsible and accountable for the information. And in system quality, identifies the methodologies and quality standards to achieve. And then quality of life, of course, dealing with things like identifying corporate policies on family, computer crime, decision making, vulnerability, job loss, and health risks. So this is just a lecture here about ethical issues or in dealing with data. We talked about data privacy, talked about copyright and trade secrets and so on. So we are dealing with technology on a daily basis, and we do everything today in technology, and we have to be mindful of the things we do online. Is it ethical or not ethical? So you have to consider the rules and regulations that we deal with and things like that. So I hope you like this lecture, and I will be posting more about this topic in future videos. And thank you for listening and watching.